Hello, and welcome to Season 2, Episode 15 of the Midwest Gaming Classic podcast. I'm your host, Jason Garris, panel director of the Midwest Gaming Classic. And this podcast episode is about becoming a YouTuber with Channel Awesome. One of the most sought-after jobs for people today is YouTuber. What does it mean to be a YouTuber? How can you get your start? And what are some of the pitfalls and possibilities you should know? Join the Nostalgia Critic, Doug Walker, and the Channel Awesome crew as they discuss this very in-demand topic for the last episode of the season. And you know what? Enough of me talking. Why don't we get to the podcast?
I was just going to talk to these nice people. This is the slap happy part of this. You're our last panel.
Are we really?
You are. Really. You are anchoring this show.
Wow.
I mean, if you want to go home, we can just leave.
We're saving the best for last. Doug Walker, everybody.
That's what I was told on that.
Can I say, by the way, you've been a delight this podcast.
Yeah, no, you're one of the most fun MCs we've ever seen. Most are just like, oh, is this mic working? Okay, good, and then they just leave.
Thank you very much.
Just such a laid-back Wisconsin attitude. That's it.
Thank you.
Oh, go ahead.
He's actually from Tennessee, then.
Oh, well.
Actually, I'm originally from Chicago.
Yeah, well,
Chicago, all right.
Hell yeah. Well, in that case, why are you so tight?
I live in Green Bay now.
Oh, wow. Man, shots fired. I take back everything I said. You are true Chicagoan.
My sports loyalties never changed.
Yeah.
Just in case, that's the next question. So.
Hey, Green Bay fans can't do anything to us. As Bears fans, we have already done it to ourselves. You got nothing.
That's true.
Nothing.
And I'm a Cubs fan too, so that's...
Yes.
Hooray, Ricketts.
I mean, yay!
So I was going to say, for all of you that felt the need to sit in the cheap seats, you guys can come up forward so we can all be one happy family. That's fine. If you have to leave.
The one guy who shook his head no was my favorite.
Feels like, so.
Hearts!
It's like church.
This does feel like that hour of study hall right before the school bell rings. Save some room for the Holy Spirit.
So, if you want to get started.
Okay, I saw on your list, I'm just making sure, yeah. Okay, all right, first of all, welcome to the final panel of the convention. Woo!
And let me just say, we love it here. Sheboygan is an amazing town. So thank you all for the warm welcome.
That was a very hungover Sunday response to.
Yeah. Guess some of you were at the after party as well.
Yeah, that was very fun. Before we get started here, we should probably go down the line and introduce who we are. The line, of course, starting with me. I am Doug Walker. I have a character called Nostalgia Critic. I've been doing YouTube videos for 17 years, if you can believe it, 16 professionally, and I've done all sorts of like characters.
One professionally, but
all sorts of like characters and videos and comedic routines, just straight up reviews and stuff like that. So all sorts of stuff like that. And down there is.
I'm Rob.
Hi, Rob.
Co-writer. I've done some side roles. I've done a show with Walter called Fanscription, so stuff like that.
you.
I am Heather Roos. I am the Channel Awesome Twitch queen, and also resident live streaming expert, I suppose. And now apparently IT as well.
I'm Brad Jones. I play the cinema snob. I look at a lot of horror movies, and I also do the year in film videos, where it's all the movies in a given year. I'll be doing 1984. Look for that in a couple months. It'll be about 4.5 hours long.
And I'm Malcolm Ray. I'm a voice actor. I've been part of Channel Awesome for about 12 years now. I play a variety of characters on the show, like the Devil, Black Willy Wonka, etc. And I also voice a bunch of characters for like Fanscription. And yeah, that's my credentials with Channel Awesome. And I do other stuff too that you might know about.
And down there is Harvey. Oh, Harvey, he's a rabbit.
That seat was reserved for Tiny Tim.
We have a little crutch there for Tiny Tam. Yes. She's diabetic. Her blood sugar was low. She's getting a little bit. She's going to come right back. So that'll be good. What this panel is, some of you might have shown up to the panel last night where we're talking about, being a YouTuber and, how to get into it. Do you want to get into it, and stuff like that. All sorts of important questions like that. And we have some of our YouTubers up here. This is I don't want to say it's a repeat of that, but it is a little bit. We're going to talk about different ways that, now how it's impacted our lives, but it can also impact your life too, whether you turn it into a career, keep it as a hobby, or whether you want to keep going with it or not keep going with it. The pros and cons, all that good stuff. And since we're all, we work at the same company, we've been working together for years and years, this is definitely a little bit more of like a group context day. Tiny Tam, everybody.
Why, it's a Christmas miracle, it is.
Well, okay, officially say who you are, because it went down the line, we all introduced each other.
Hello, I'm a diabetic. Low blood sugar. Hi, I'm Tamara Chambers, and I'm an actor for Nostalgia Critic.
So yeah, like I said, the main thing we'll be focusing on the first half of this. We'll just sort of talk about pros and cons, advantages, disadvantages, stuff like that. Being a YouTuber, if you want to be a YouTuber, you want to get into it, and then about halfway through, we're going to open it up to y'all for questions, comments, stuff like that. It doesn't necessarily have to be, I want to be a YouTuber. What's advice? It could be just a stupid thing. What's that dinosaur mask smell like? Just weird stuff like that. It doesn't matter.
You don't want to know.
The important questions.
Now I do. I never thought about that before.
Smells like me. The number one thing I always say, again, if you showed up to the panel last night, you'll hear this repeated, which people always ask, what are your thoughts on, I want to be a YouTuber. What advice would you give? And there's really, in the short time span I have, there's two things that I say. The number one most important thing sounds crazy obvious, but man, there's a lot of people that do not follow it. Do it because you love it. Because right now there's a lot stacked against you, if you really want to know the truth. This is the new hot job. You ask majority of kids in school right now, what do you want to be when you grow up? It's an influencer, it's a YouTube, it's a social media star, it's all this stuff.
It's the lottery.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of is. We're crazy lucky that we got into this when we did. And when we got into it, it was not a job. You couldn't make money at this. We were doing it just because it was fun. We had
the Wild West is what it was.
Yeah, and it was the Wild West. And I think that's one of the reasons where when it did become a job, we just were all the more thankful and all the more blown away by it. But now there's that expectation that you can turn it into a job, which you can. But there's a lot of pros and cons to that. That can be very unexpected and very shaky, which we'll get into that in a second. But the other thing I always say, going beyond that, if you really are doing this because you love it, and even if it goes nowhere, 5 people watch it ever, you'd be like, well, I'd still do that because I love this. This is what brings me joy. Good. If it doesn't, then you might want to look into something else, or just keep it as a hobby kind of thing. And then if it does become something, if you do make a living at it, or half your income comes towards it, you'll be all the more thankful and even more happy about it. So you always want to be sure that is the reason you're doing this, because like I said, there is a lot stacked against you. I don't want to scare people away.
If it doesn't work out, then you're like, hey, I had some fun doing something.
Yes, I'd be doing this even if nobody ever watched it. So be very, very sure that's why you're doing it. The other thing I tell people is that I say, be brutally honest with yourself. Don't be mean. You don't have to beat yourself up. But if you make a video, take yourself out of the equation. You're just Joe Schmo looking through YouTube, and you see your thumbnail and that title. Would you click on it? If not, why? Be very honest. You click on it. The video starts. You start saying something. Would you be interested? Would you keep watching it? If not, why? What would you change? Get about 5 minutes in. Would I keep watching after this? If not, why not? Just keep asking yourself these questions. Be very, very honest with yourself, which isn't easy. Taking yourself out of the equation is very difficult. You know what the next line is going to be. You know what the person's going to do because you did it. But part of being in entertainment and everything is having this good imagination. And to be objective and to be really honest with yourself, you do often have to take yourself out of it.
Well, you need a thick skin.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have a thick skin, you're going to get into trouble real fast.
Yeah. And
you can see, when that's happened sometimes, people who don't, and it's just things fall apart pretty quickly.
Yeah. So now I have thick skin, be able to take both, trolls, insults, all sorts of name calling and stuff like that. But be able to take criticism too. And a lot of people say, how can you tell the difference? I always say, follow your gut. Your gut knows. If someone's just I hate you, dick, ass, or something like that, well, thank you. That's very helpful. I'm going to really take that to heart.
Yeah, but having a thick skin doesn't just mean that if somebody's insulting you, you're just oh, I don't care, sticks and stones or whatever. It also means if somebody's giving you honest, valid criticism and it somehow gets to you and irks you because deep down they're right, you better have a thick skin and go oh, well, maybe I should do something about that then. Instead of just ignoring it because, well, I'm always right.
At one point, I started, because we kept getting hit with copyright claims and stuff like that, I experimented with this thing where we do something called clipless reviews, where we will review the movie and interact it, these very cheap ways and everything, but we will recreate it and review the movie while doing it. And at the time, they were laughing, I hate that, boo, where's the review? I can't find the review. It's nowhere. It's just not there. Blah, blah, blah. And there were people that liked it fine. And I was saying to myself, no, I feel like this is good. I feel like there's something here. This is different. And now people come back and they say, when's the next one? When are you going to do the next one? I'm like, I'm too old now. I don't have the energy to do it. But I was like, no, there's something here. Same thing review Stephen King's It. People were pissed. How can you make fun of this classic, this masterpiece that scared me when I was 5 years old? What's wrong with you? And that's one of our most popular reviews ever. And people now look forward to Stephen King movies every year. But then an example of it working the other way is that I always like to make fun of whoever the president is. I always feel like anyone that's powerful needs to be able to take a few punches, even if I like them, I still gotta give some punches. And when Trump became president, I made so many jokes. Every day he had something funny I could make fun of. And somebody just said, the Trump jokes are getting a little old. And I said, yeah, he's right. There were just too many of them. I'm not a political show. And it was just so exciting because here's someone that's giving me material literally daily, and I'm just like, nah, he's right. This is getting old. I know he's right. You hear this criticism, I'm not thinking of it, but when you hear it, it's like, nah, this person has something there. So there is a way to kind of tell that you can disagree, but at the same time, when someone really strikes a chord with something, don't be afraid to say that person might be right.
It helps to know your outlet too. So what is your audience? What is your outlet? And it was just if that's not what your show is really about, then it's well, if you pivot hardcore, you can try, but if it's not going to work, it's a huge risk. So just know kind of also who you're kind of aiming for.
Mm-hmm. And a tough, and this is where it gets really tricky, trying to get that audience and everything. And we battled with this too and stuff how much do you kind of pander to that audience too? A lot of times, and I have no problem admitting this, I've tried to force a lot of memes in the past, and it was usually very obvious. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. And again, sometimes people would call me out on it and be like, it's very obvious he's trying to get white text put on the bottom of his line. I'm like, yeah, they got me. Like, I'm not even aware I'm doing it, but sometimes they'll say it, I'm like, yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'm not even aware of it. And what's so funny about that is the one that got the most famous is one I didn't even try on, where it's like a sponsorship for honey. And I'm like, I got like a minute to film this. I don't know. Let me just read the bullet points. I'll just have myself pointing at a computer like,
That's everywhere now.
like, sure. What, people skip the sponsorships half the time anyway. Nobody's, and it becomes this huge thing shared all over the place. So it shows even when you try to predict what your audience is going to like, you can never quite always figure it out. And that's a good thing, because that keeps you on your toes. That keeps you experimenting as well, too. But you also need kind of that comfort zone to return to, where it's like, okay, you have to keep in mind why people come to see you. And
It's a balancing act.
Yeah, give them what they're looking for, but also hold on to what brought you joy to begin with, because they can also tell if you're not enjoying it, if you're not feeling that joy in the performance and what you're doing. Because even though they don't always say it, audiences can pick up on that stuff, and they don't always say it in the comments. They'll just stop watching your videos. So that is something to really keep in mind.
Yeah, I was gonna say, people will know like what you're doing is authentic, whether it's authentic or not. Just make sure that it is something that you want to do. And if you want to be like the jack of all trades and be like the actor, editor, cameraman, you got to decide if that's gonna work for you, or if you need a team. Like, if you know that you're good at like one specific thing and you're comfortable in that, it's like, okay, but I need help with like lighting, or I need help with like cinematography, or it's like I can draw but I need like animators, just like knowing whether or not you need help for the format that you're trying to pull off. And that can require some honesty in of itself too, because like back in the day, like when I was trying to do YouTube, like just as a solo person, like I was trying to do it all, and I'm like, man, it's like I know how to edit, but I prefer to be in front of the camera. And like nowadays, I'm comfortable in that. Like I prefer to be the performer as opposed to like in production.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, it is a business. YouTubing now, or being a YouTuber now, is a lot more feasible than when you started. It wasn't even an option when you started. And I kind of have a little bit of a different perspective, having not joined the team until like 2016, after you guys were established, in terms of like, it can be a job now, but that means you have to think about it as a business. I used to teach middle school for 10 years before I joined the team full time. And my students, I know, all wanted to be YouTubers. And I would tell them, cool, that's awesome. Then that actually means you need to give 120% in school, because you need to know how to write a contract, because you are doing your own kind of contract deals for that. You need to know how to do your own taxes. You need to know how to calculate your own worth for sponsors. You need to be able to have the science knowledge to look at the graphs of your analytics and decode that into data that you can use to propel your business forward. It is one of the hardest jobs that I've ever had, and that's coming from me being a teacher for 10 years, because it is so all-encompassing, and it is something that you have to just have so much base knowledge on. Like as working with live streaming stuff, I had to learn all the tech myself. I taught myself all that tech. Like then you have to do tech troubleshooting and all this jazz. But it is important to remember that at the end of the day, it is a business. And if it is something that you want to be your future, you have to take that perspective on it. But like Doug said, also reminding yourself that this is something you actually want to do and you love, because it can be easy to get lost in those numbers and get lost in like, oh, I have to hit these numbers and I have to do this for the business and I have to whatever. But it is a business at the end of the day.
It really is important to know that this is what you want to do. This is what you want to spend your time on. I want to be, like Malcolm said, I want to be a part of all of this. Like I started with NC and I was like, I should start my own YouTube channel and like kind of make something with this. And I was like, I want to get to 50,000 subscribers. That's my goal as a YouTuber. And I got to 50,000 subscribers, and I had a conversation with myself. I was like, I hate this. I don't like this at all. This is not for me. And I had been doing it for years with never having that conversation with myself. I was just going for it. So it's good to know, because it's all encompassing.
I think there's this conception, because like my brother-in-law and my sister-in-law teach, and they say every kid is like, what do you want to be, a YouTuber? And like, as they put it, it's like, cool, so you want to start your own business?
Yeah.
Well, no, that's work. It's just like, that's what you're doing. Hate to break it to you.
Yeah.
You know, and like with like one of the number one things that people forget about, better figure out how to do your own taxes, because woof. You know, that alone is an issue. But it's like, that's the difficulty of it. It's like, it's not just about like, oh, I want the fame and I want the numbers and all that, but it's the same as starting your own business. Like, there's some people for whom that is their dream, and they get off on that. Like, America's just full of people like that, and you got your Bill Gateses and, you know, entrepreneurs and startups. So you got to kind of think of it as like, well, I'm kind of an entrepreneur then, you know, and a lot of times, you know, it doesn't work out. How many failed businesses are out there? So
even YouTube businesses,
yeah, it's like, not saying like, well, don't ever do it, but like, you have to know that it's a risk going in if you're like, oh, I really want to do this full time, like as my career, and it's not just like, you know, some hobby thing.
I think it's also good to know, again, be very honest with yourself, know your pros and your cons. Somebody actually came up to me today, having seen the panel last night, and said, you know, I have, I did a podcast for I think like 5 years and stuff, and I really enjoyed it and everything. But what would you say to someone who, you know, feels like they have like imposter syndrome, like, you know, going into this and stuff like that? And first of all, I said, you know, I think that's a better thing. I think it's better to have underconfidence so you overcorrect than too much confidence and you underprepare. Because I've seen that a lot with YouTubers as well. You know, it's still an unfortunate thing. He even says, like, sometimes it does really help him, you know, like, balance things out. He will overcorrect, he will you know, but he'll still get the stuff out there and everything. I think it's good to know what your pros are, what your cons are, and how you can utilize both, because you can work within them. But if there's something you know you're not a fan of and you don't want to get into, you know, don't be afraid to bring, you know, other people in, you know, and try to be as fair as possible, you know, and stuff like that. But it is something that if you know your strength, utilize it as well. You know, just be very honest about what you think your strong points are. And like I said, really have them play off each other.
Yeah, and I was just going to say something really important. I was going to say, if you do all that, you decide you don't want to do YouTube, you decide you don't want to do this and this, you can just sell feet pics.
Very true.
At the end of the day.
Well,
We'll give you our website today.
Speaking to what Doug was saying about knowing your strengths, another thing that I found really weird and almost challenging when I first started working on marketing my own channel, because I have my own Twitch channel and whatever, is knowing how to market yourself. Like, knowing your strengths and then knowing how to package that up and give that to sponsors and being like, here's why I'm awesome, without feeling like you are lying about everything or overselling yourself. It is so difficult to figure out how to market yourself. Yes. But once you find how you feel comfortable marketing yourself, it can make a huge difference. Not only, like, it sounds, so, okay, I'm gonna back up too. You have to kind of find your branding, again, because nowadays people understand that this is partially a business and that you do have to have a brand that is marketable in an environment with sponsorships. But when I first started adding branding around my content, I had those like 2 or 3 people who were like, oh, she's sold out now, she's branded. They had never spent a cent on my stream. So like, why was I taking that to heart? They had never even given me one bit, which is 1 cent. They literally had never, like, they'd been a viewer, which obviously is super important. Like, views are an important part of this economy. But branding and finding who you are in this market is important, and the even more important part of that is finding how to market that to sponsors. Because at the end of the day, the majority of the income does come from sponsors and sponsorships. And once you find that, you will find that sometimes it takes a lot less than you think to find sponsors. So on my personal channel, not Channel Awesome, one of my biggest sponsors is Hot Pockets. And I may only average 20 to 30 viewers per stream, but I knew how to market myself to the Hot Pockets marketing team and say, this is what I have to offer as a streamer and why I should get I've got a year's supply of Hot Pockets and a micro freezer, which is just a freezer with a microwave on top of it. You know, like
Swimsuit.
Hot
Pockets and two-piece suits.
You don't have to be the biggest person in the market to start marketing yourself to those kind of sponsors if you can do it well and find a niche that resonates with those sponsors and what you're passionate about and what you can be passionate about selling while also doing that authentically.
Yeah. Another big thing, it's one of those things we definitely don't want to make it sound like we're trying to scare you away from this. It is a lot of work, but at the same time, it's a lot of work to be an actor, a director, a writer, to go to Hollywood and do all this stuff. And we live in an age where you don't have
a lot of work just doing a typical corporate job.
Yeah, all of that is a lot of work, but we also live in an age where you don't have to go to Hollywood anymore. To have people know who you are, you can bring Hollywood to you. You can bring people to you. You can literally bring them to your living room. I started off doing this in my mom and dad's laundry room. You know, I didn't even have my own play. I was just doing it for fun. And, you know, if I said, you know, I didn't like something, nobody would care. But now, like 17 years later, if I say the exact same, well, who is that a-hole? Why would he blah, blah, blah? I mean, it's like, and to me, I could argue right back on, but I'm like, I'm honored that they're even getting emotional about me. Because I remember I was just that schmuck in this laundry room, you know, like literally, you turn to the right, there's the washer and dryer.
That's the old phrase, once you have a hater, you have a watcher for life.
Yeah. So it is one of those things where, but again, the flip of that is that, you know, the pro and con is anyone can do it. The downside is anyone can do it, and anyone and everyone is trying to do it. So there is a lot of competition. So again, I think that's where it helps to be really honest with yourself about your material. But also something somebody said last night, I'm like, man, that's a great way put. Everybody says, well, how come this is going on YouTube? How come this isn't catching on? How come this seems so certain and now it isn't? Blah, blah, blah. And he had a great line. He said, as YouTubers, we're the last to know. And sometimes we never know. YouTube makes arbitrary decisions, and that's the other half. Like, you have the one half of the lottery is just like, maybe I got the talent, maybe I'm in the right place at the right time and I can do this. Like, that's one half of the lottery. The other half is just YouTube's mysterious, nebulous algorithm, and whatever decision they decide to make just off the top of their head sometimes on any random day, and how it could either bump one of your videos up or nearly destroy your whole channel within a matter of months. Like, that's what you're dealing with constantly.
Now, that being said, while you're running into a lot of, you know, obstacles and adversities, while anyone and everyone nowadays, they want to be content creators, you know, that is, you know, a lot of competition, but that's also potentially a lot of collaboration. So, you know, don't be afraid to like network and reach out to other people, because, you know, some people might be doing exactly what you want to be doing, you know, but in a different way. So you could offer your services to them, or figure out how you can meet in the middle, and you can like both grow together. So it can work in that way too. You know, so you don't have to like look at everyone as like, you know, out to get you, or like, you know, you're, you know, fierce rivals or anything like that. It's like, hey, you know, maybe we can work together on something, you know, make sure you got your contracts, you know, and all that, you know, make sure you strike a deal that, you know, that you want. So, but yeah, working together also is good.
Well, and part of what I think is really cool about like the era that we're in right now in content creation and YouTubing and live streaming and whatever is that you don't have to be the biggest name with the most subscribers ever to make a living off of it.
Yeah.
I have some friends on Twitch who don't have the most like subscribers or the most followers or even the most highest viewer count ever, but they can can make a living at it. Like now, in this modern era that we're in right now, sponsors know, or like companies know, that there is an audience on YouTube. YouTube isn't just like, oh, that little weird thing that like Coke doesn't want to advertise on. Like Coca-Cola now is looking to do things with YouTubers because they know how much capital and value that has in the market nowadays. So it's really cool to be in this era now where you don't have to be in the top 10% of subscribers on YouTube or a subscriber count on YouTube in order to get a living off of this. You can be like a quote-unquote mid-sized creator and make a living, and that's really cool. I think at that point, like, we have a lot of power right now in the industry, and that's super cool.
You can walk right down any of the streets downtown here and see how many small businesses are just like, oh, we're just some cafe, we're just some restaurant, you know, we just open up and like, we're very happy, like we're doing good for ourselves, I can support my kids and like having a good time and this and that. And then you'll see other places like, well, that's a huge franchise or something. Well, where did that start? Well, that was somebody who just decided to start at one thing, and it's like, well, I got to be the best. I got to keep growing. But you don't have to go that route. There's just so many options right now. Is you can be a little small channel and get just enough. You're like, I'm doing good, or you maybe that's your goal. I'm like, I'm gonna be the next Mr. Beast. I'm gonna be the next this, and I'm gonna have like kabillions and billions, but kabillions, kabajillions.
Mr. Beast does have kabajillions.
Yeah, that's fair. That is the actual number. Just at some point they stop adding the zeros and just say, I'll cut you billion.
But yeah, so you have that opportunity. So it's like, that's another thing to think of is it's like, do you want to go into this with like, that's my goal to be the greatest ever? Or you're just like, I got some goals where I'm just like, I just want to do this and, you know, I can make enough to get by, so be it. So,
with that said, before we open it up to the questions here, and I mean, we could talk about this endlessly. You know, so there's a lot to talk about.
We could depress you much more.
Yes. but
It's a great job. We have one.
it is a never lose track. We are crazy lucky, and we got into this because we love it. That we will put up with all the hardships and annoyances
it's just,
and
you
stuff
need
like
to
that.
know. And then if you're just like, that sounds like it's for me, then more power to you. Like, go for it.
But before we do open it up to you know, questions, comments, you know, and stuff like that, is there anything else people, you know, just want to drop that's like, oh, one last important thing before we open it up to people?
If you are starting out on YouTube, when you gain any sort of followers, whether it's 100 followers, whether it's 200, like, it doesn't matter. Businesses will reach out to you to try and represent you. Don't sign with them. They'll just take your money and do nothing for you. Don't sign with businesses.
MCNs don't work?
MCNs don't work. Weird.
Make sure that if this is something you are pursuing, that you are also keeping track of your own physical and mental health. It is so easy if you start gaining any kind of traction to be like, yes, now I just have to do this. This is going to obsess me 24/7, and I don't need to sleep. I don't need to eat. I don't need to go to the gym. I don't need to worry about my mental health in any way, shape, or form. That's a great way to burn yourself out and never want to come back to content creation.
Should not be tied to it.
No, yeah.
I've seen it happen both ways. Where people like, you know, something goes wrong, it's like they're completely crushed, or you get that overconfidence of like, well, I'm just amazing.
Yeah.
So either way.
I am Rob.
You're Rob?
I think a big piece of that as well is don't feel bad for setting boundaries with people. Some people, once you start having any, like, not even like success, but start feeling like they have this kind of relationship with you that may not even exactly exist, don't feel bad to set down a boundary and be like, hey, I am not really someone that you should be trauma dumping on. I've never met you before in real life. Like, this is really heavy for me. Don't feel like you're gonna lose that person forever if you set a boundary, because if you set a boundary and that viewer or that fan or whatever doesn't respect it, they were never your fan to begin with.
Ayana couldn't be here this weekend, but she always had a good line to it. She said, have a good support group. You know, and that doesn't mean people that praise you all the time. It's friends and family that love you, are very kind to you, and are honest. You can show them stuff. You can show them like a video and stuff like that, and they go, oh, that's great. Yeah, I mean, just, no, do you think this works? Do you think this, and maybe they, yeah, I don't know, it's fine. And then others might give you more details, some might keep it more basic by me just having you need that foot in reality. Too many people get too sucked into the digital world, and it's like, but if you're...
That's a big thing I want to tell, is like, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, all of these comment sections, it's not real life. Like, the reason people get to be a-holes is because they just get to be anonymous. It's like, you try having any of these conversations, like, I guarantee you, like, 99.9% of them, if any of this happened face to face, you would see them back down like a bunch of cowards.
No, I've definitely had that where I'll talk to someone and they just seem nice or whatever, to have a normal conversation. They might even be a little timid, a little shy or whatever, and then go on social media, this son of a bitch said this and none of that, so I said blah, blah, blah. I'm like, that didn't happen.
I'm gonna say, I don't care what side of the political spectrum you're on either. I have seen it on both sides where it's just like people get online and they go crazy.
Yeah.
So it
because
is
there's rarely
not
consequences
real
for it.
life.
Yeah.
And people confuse it for real life, and it's sad, and it's a problem. Sometimes people need to push themselves away from their computer monitors and stop being keyboard warriors and just go outside and take a deep breath.
Yeah, get vitamin D. Move your body, because all of that, even just outside, even if you're not online all the time, if you're just working too much, you need to move. You need to move your body around.
In the sun?
Right?
In the grass?
Touch grass?
Grass?
What are these things in the air? Birds? There's animals? They're still a thing?
We're talking about touching grass in Stardew Valley, right?
Good. I was going to say, the way I always put it was like, don't take the bait, but take a break.
I like that.
Check yourself before you wreck yourself.
Yeah, if you see something that's just like, ooh, it's like, I want to tell them something. It's like, wait, I can get up and just walk away from this computer right now.
That's so good.
Yeah.
That's so good.
I'm like,
anytime you fall for trolls, I always say, stick a quarter in your butt, you played yourself.
Yeah.
like you're the one who's going to end up regretting it in the end.
Yeah, it's so true.
Did you make that up?
Yeah.
I love that.
It's so good.
I love it.
It's something that I've had to remind myself because, oh man, a few years ago, I was not in physical fist fights, but it felt like a fist fight, but with keyboards, And I'm just like, man, this is not healthy.
There's a meme, a wonderful meme from Mad Max Fury Road, and whenever I was about ready to get into an argument or really fall for something like that, this image would flash in my head, and it's Mad Max, is Tom Hardy just pointing, going, that's bait. That's bait. Just don't fall for it.
So, awesome. With that said, we are going to open it up to y'all here. If you got a question, comment, anything like that, just go ahead, raise your hand.
I will say I love the YouTuber trick of taking mean YouTuber comments and troll comments and making an episode out of it. And just turning it right around and into content, because I think that usually does pretty well too.
Yeah, well, it shows you have a good sense of humor. It shows you are thankful for your position and you do not take this too seriously, and y'all shouldn't either. We're here to have fun. We're here to, enjoy ourselves and everything. And yes, this is a business, like she said, and all that, so you take that seriously, but in terms of just opinion, or if someone doesn't like you or something like that, taking this right, they don't have to like you.
It's the principles of judo. You let the opponent exert all their energy and tire themselves out and slip up and make a mistake, and you're just like, I don't know.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. Questions again. Start with you here.
I was going to ask, in terms of gags you've had on your show, whether it be the animated Casper thing or I'm a Dinosaur, whatever, was there any particular running gag that you got a lot of hate that you could, comes to mind?
Oh, I'm sure I have, especially just when they kept getting repeated.
I myself got sick of the Chuck Norris thing, just because Doug's voice in that always annoyed me. The 20th time I heard it, I'm like, we really need to put this to rest.
Yeah, no, and I try not to do that stuff as much, because, again, it's fine in, the early 2000s and stuff, but now it's pretty annoying. I think the closest I can think of is that I did, speaking of falling for traps, I did kind of do a lot of those, Family Guy jokes where I would just have something go on and on and on, and that was the joke. And then also, Andy Kaufman would do that too, so I was already kind of a fan of that, but it's very difficult to have that work, and especially work years later, because you already get it, but you have to be an expert like Andy Kaufman to really understand it. And you can be. I mean, you can experiment with it, but man, when the experiment doesn't fail, or when it does fail, that's a long time to fail.
Okay, so this is me kind of speaking from my own experience because I had YouTube experience before this, but when I started the podcast I host currently back in November of last year, we kind of went into it being like, we're going to do this for fun, it's just going to kind of be like something we do on the side. Within a month, we were doing episodes with guests, we were getting in contact with these relatively like popular people. We were joining a podcast network, we were getting sponsorships all of a sudden, we were commissioning art from people, and it was happening so fast, but I think that's another reason why you really need to be serious that this is something you do want to do, because you never know when that your content could, become popular. It could become something that becomes more than just a hobby. And if you're not prepared for that, then it's going to make it all the more difficult if it does happen, because you're not ready for it, and then you kind of just hit a brick wall.
Yeah, kind of the idea that it'll bring, you always hear this, winning the lottery is going to bring you happiness. Most people who win the lottery are very miserable because they're not happy even with, you're nothing with it, you're nothing with it if you're nothing without it. That's from Cool Runnings, everybody, classic line.
Damn, that's a good line.
Yeah.
I like that. Cool Runnings is one of the greatest movies of our time.
I've never seen Cool Runnings? What is that? What is that movie?
Oh my God, that's another one.
You've seen that. You saw that. The bobsled.
Oh, I've seen. I didn't say I've never seen that.
Don't watch that. Cameron's never seen again. Oh my God.
I forgot. Yeah, the bobsled team.
To speak a little bit more to that too, not only do you have to be prepared for when it comes up, but what comes up must also come down. That's just human nature.
That's what I was gonna say.
You're gonna ebb and flow, like your channel's gonna go through times when you're hitting 4 million views, and they're gonna go through times when you're hitting 40,000 views. And you just have to know how to run your business and be prepared for being able to handle a middle line despite the spikes.
Yeah, and be smart and adaptive, definitely, because you're right. I think a lot of younger YouTubers, when they finally start to really rise, well, this is it. It's just going to keep growing. It's never going to stop. And you hear the Hollywood stories too. It's never going to stop. It's just going to keep growing. No, it will. Eventually, whether it'll take a long time or whether it be a sharp dive or whatever, it will at some point. You got to be prepared for that, and you got to be adaptive.
That's when Morgan Freeman comes in with his narration and says, but it did stop.
Yeah. But that doesn't mean you're failing. That doesn't mean you did anything wrong. That doesn't mean you're failing. That's just the nature of any business.
Perfectly good channels just fizzle out for reasons that I'm like, I will watch this and I'm like, I don't get it. It's the same content. It's just as good. And I've seen it where it's their fault. They did something dumb or there's issues, and I've seen it also where it's like, no, they were doing fine and things were great, and somehow they weren't getting recommended on the main page. They were just there's almost kind of a life cycle, and any YouTuber will tell you, we're still trying to figure out what that system is, and they won't tell.
It helps if you're consistent too, because you reach a point. If you've been doing it a long time, it'll reach a point where it might dip slow or it might dip fast. But if you've been consistent with it,
consistency is one of the number one.
Yeah, and if you're still consistent with it, then
people who put out 4 videos a month and then don't put out anything for 3 months and then do 2 videos and then disappear for another 4 weeks and then do 3 videos and disappear for 4 months, you're gonna have huge problems.
Yeah.
Also, if you've been doing it as long as we have too, you have a really big back catalog. So while something new might not get pushed very much at all, really, the back catalog a lot of times will. And there's a majority of comments I get are from older videos, really. So if you've got, I think I got a couple thousand videos on my end or something like that.
Thousand?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so half of those are me eating food. So that helps too. Consistency, a big archive, a big back catalog, and as long as you're still consistent at putting out content, you're good.
Next question's right here. Thank you. Long time listener, first time calling. So this is more on the strategy side of things. How important is it early on to plan ahead for your content, planning out not just days but weeks in advance? And then also, how important is it nowadays to use Instagram or even TikTok for leading and
directing people from those platforms back to YouTube to help you grow and organically grow your reach.
Well, the TikTok thing screwed a lot of things up.
Yeah,
YouTube decided all of a sudden that they wanted to be the next TikTok, and have failed horribly at trying to make that happen and screwed all the rest of us in the process.
I mean, less screwed and more revolutionized the short form content arena, but
But it's so, and that's what it is now. Literally 10 years from now or 10 minutes from now, it could change drastically. So again, that definitely comes down to being adaptive and trying your best to predict, but also keeping in mind you can never fully predict. I mean, do your best, try to follow patterns and stuff. I mean, like, you can't predict life, you can't predict what's going to be the next big thing necessarily. So in terms of preparing and getting stuff out, it depends. Like, I have videos where I take about 2 weeks to make. I have some where I just make it in a night. I like going back and forth between something that you prepare big time for and then just something like just in the moment. When one morning I woke up and a friend of mine just said, "You're in SpongeBob." What? And he sends me this clip and they have Bubble Bass dress up like me and I hate it and stuff like that. And I couldn't sit on that. I had to respond right away. I had to respond yesterday to this. I had to have this going. So I just, like, as fast as I could, I got a funny idea. I shot it. I got different angles. I edited it as quickly as I could. And I'm like, well, shorts is really big, so let's keep it under a minute right now. I'll do a vertical one. I'll do a horizontal one. And I sent it off. I said, post these, ASAP right away. And it's still, like, I think our most watched short and video, like, on
I had
Twitter.
an emote ready in like a day and a half.
Yeah.
I was like, great, Bubble Bass emote for Twitch, got it.
Well, this is a big thing, so I should sit down and really think about this. No, I knew, right, you need to ride that momentum right away.
Yes.
Other things you can take a while. There's some YouTubers that put so much time into their video. I mean, they can be like 3-4 hours long, and they make like maybe 3 videos a year or something like that. But because the effort is there and the passion is there, and they work so hard on it, people will come back for it. The one downside to that is if there is something that gets just claimed out of nowhere unfairly, but it gets claimed or it gets you a strike or something like that, that more than likely will just knock that video out of the algorithm, and boom, there's months of work down the drain and you're not going to get any money for it. So again, it's just a balancing act and figuring out what you're comfortable with. I will say when it happened for people like us, well, because we get claims all the time and we fight them and it's always BS and it's annoying and obnoxious and we have to wait for like 2 at a time, because if we get 3, that could get a strike and that could destroy the chance. So much stupid stuff we have to jump through. But we're also very consistent and we get them off and stuff. I feel bad when somebody does put so much time and effort into a video for like months and months and then it gets hit and they are so angry, and rightfully so, because it's like it's something that shouldn't have gotten hit and it just destroyed all this money and all this momentum they could have gotten. So it's rough to see, but that's also why I'm personally comfortable doing something, weekly, like a couple videos a week. But that's what I'm comfortable with. I understand people that really, really take time for just one major video and only release a couple a year too.
And I will just say retraction, piggybacking off what she said. I don't have a problem with TikTok. I watch a ton of TikTok videos. When I say screwed, it's not that, TikTok itself personally screwed us. It's YouTube's response to TikTok, where they don't know what they're doing is what's screwed us.
They pushed a new format without informing creators, and you just got to be.
I compare it to what happened with YouTube and TikTok is TikTok in this case was Marvel and YouTube was DC Warner Brothers, where it's just like, oh, well, they've got this. Okay, well, we need to do all this and we need to have done it yesterday. So just, I don't care how it works. Just make it happen. And then when it rolls out, you're just like, oh, well, this is a kind of a disaster. So that's what happened.
Yeah. We're still waiting for Wonder Woman in the YouTube Shorts.
We're waiting to see all that great short form revenue from YouTube.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my God. It's coming. When's it coming, guys?
Yeah.
So, cool. Next one.
Hello, long-time viewer, very long-time viewer. Doug, I remember seeing a video of you quitting your last job.
Yeah.
I want to know.
You quit again yesterday?
I want to know what the end of Nostalgia Critic you guys have planned. Are you guys going to go out with a bang? Or how do you go?
Oh, I have a surprise. Get out the camera. This is the end.
It's been a while.
My goal is to put Doug on a Viking longship and then fire a flaming arrow, and he just goes down with it, with "I quit" written on his belt. Right into Lake Michigan. We'll launch him from Navy Pier. It'll be great.
It's funny because that was the first video I ever did was me quitting my job in that way.
We are going to have to do that, probably.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm always known as either Nostalgia Critic or that guy who quit his job in that weird way. It would be funny if I just suddenly walked in and, like, the last Nostalgia Critic video is me doing that whole thing, I quit, and doing the dance and stuff. That would be actually a pretty funny ending.
I would call the police like your job.
Yeah, I'm calling the police. But, and the funny thing is, years later, there was because that was a car factory I worked at, and there was a convention across the street from the car factory that I was going as a guest as. I'm like, oh, this is, I guess, come full circle. Okay. Yeah, that's one of those where I'm like, anytime I try to think out something too much, like years in advance or even months in advance, a lot of time for Nostalgia Critic, it doesn't pay off. So I'm trying to play that by ear. Even Nostalgia Critic stuff has really changed over the years in terms of like just the character and the style and stuff like that. So it's one of those things where I'm like, I'll see where I am, I'll see where people are, and kind of play it off that. I don't really know yet.
Well, and the cool thing about content creation is just because you maybe retire Nostalgia Critic doesn't mean you're done with the internet.
Oh yeah, no, I have no plan. At some point, I'm gonna get rid of Nostalgia Critic. There's only so long I can, get the beard all white and wrinkly and stuff like that. But I want to keep doing that. I like doing this. It's fun. It's very entertaining. I adore it. It is my passion. So yeah, I'll probably, I can't see myself just straight up giving it up. But even then, I can change. I don't know. But as of now, that's not part of the plan. Other question here.
Once again, thanks for coming to Milwaukee.
Thank you.
Love you guys. 2 quick questions. Tamara, this week I recently found out you do stand-up. Is that true?
I used to do it a ton.
Oh.
I used to do stand-up. So I moved to Chicago because I wanted to be a stand-up comedian. And it turns out it's so fun, such a great way to meet people in Chicago, a great way to get on stage, and also I was just like out drinking until 3 a.m. every night doing stand-up comedy. So I turned 30 and was like, I don't know. But yeah, I've done a lot of stand-up, yes.
All right. Do you have anything recorded?
I have a few videos up on YouTube.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, the second question was for the entire panel. I've seen in many of the videos your huge warehouse of prompts. Do you guys do any commercial products? Like, do you film commercials for local businesses or anything like that? Kind of like saying what Rooster Teeth was somewhat known for doing sometimes too.
But how are they
not saying you guys are like Rooster Teeth.
That was sad news.
Yeah, no, that was great. That sounded like a me joke. I'm actually very, very sad about that.
No, I love that.
But maybe once or twice we've kind of like lent out the studio to them. I mean, right now it doesn't make sense because we don't have a studio right now. We're actually looking for one right now. But no, we
got hit by a tornado. That was good times.
And the people who owned it did not fix it. They said they fixed it, but they didn't fix it. So we're looking for another one now. But we've talked about it before, and like I said, sometimes we kind of dabble it, but not a ton. There's just more focus on like just our productions and stuff like that. So as of now, no, but it could change in the future once we get a studio again. Next one.
Yeah, so it was mentioned earlier that you guys, suggest that we try to, if we're going to start our own, try to, keep it even with the highs and the lows. One thing I wanted to know was, do you guys have like that moment that each of you like woke up that morning and all of a sudden it hit you and you were going to be a YouTuber, you were going to do that for to earn income and that sort of thing. When it gets low, when it gets harder, you then dip back into that to kind of fuel you pushing forward. Did you guys have each of you have
I think it was when our CEO just said I could pay you full time now. And I'm like,
okay, I guess I'm doing this.
Honestly, when people say, when did you know you may as a YouTuber? It's two things. One, when somebody dresses up like you at a con.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. And then two, just when you're getting money for it, when you get the paycheck, it's like, this is real. Mm-hmm. Okay, like that's pretty mind-blowing when that finally starts happening. When it reaches me personally, I'm kind of what I call annoyingly optimistic. Maybe as naively optimistic sometimes, and sometimes that's very good because people can be feeling the dumps, and I can try to just be good energy and stuff like that. But sometimes it's very damaging. I really need to see the reality of something. So when something starts to go, when we really start to dip or something like that, I'm usually not that worried, even at times when I should be, honestly. But that's why, again, I got a good support group. I got people who have a very firm foot in reality and know numbers and stuff like that can say, this is a problem, here's our strategy, you now need to do this, or you may, let's start streaming, let's try some of the shorts, let's try some of like the TikTok stuff, let's play around with this and stuff like that, which is fine, it's fun, but it is more time. It is time away from other stuff. And I love it all. Again, if that's your job, oh no, you have to make TikTok, oh no, you have to stream and talk to your fans, oh, terrible. You're so thankful to be it, but it does take time away. And I have people that I do trust with this stuff and can look at the numbers and translate out what needs to be done now. So I usually don't panic that much, but I guess at the most I get concerned. Maybe that's the closest I get. But again, everybody's different. You play to your strengths. I'm not a business guy, so I have other people who can help me out with that stuff because I know that's my weakness. So I have people I really trust and have proven themselves in the past that really help me out with all that.
I guess I kind of stumbled into YouTube because before I had discovered Channel Awesome, I was just studying to become an actor, performer, something within film. I didn't really know which direction to go into. I thought I was going to have to fly out to LA and just become a waiter and just kind of hope for the best. But how in some of those cartoons where they're trying to build something like a stove and then they trip over a bunch of stuff and then it just falls into place into a house. That's kind of what happened with me. I was just in my radio production class. I'm just putting together audio, and I see a colleague of mine, and she's putting together an audition video. I'm like, what's this for? What are you working on? I thought this was an audio production class, and I saw that they were making a submission for you. That's how I found out about it, and I decided to shoot my shot because this was the day of the deadline, and so I went and submitted.
Even then, you were late.
Yeah, even then. It became my brand.
We were like, damn it, this guy's good.
Thank you.
Undeniable.
Yeah. So, I don't know, if you are just an independent freelancer, be it an editor or an animator, an artist, hone your craft and don't be afraid to shop it around because you never know. Again, the people around you are your, potential collaborators. And I'm just so thankful for being able to collaborate with y'all. Thank you, seriously.
Like Malcolm, I had always kind of wanted to be an actress, but also studied teaching because I needed something more practical as well. And the moment for me where I decided, okay, I think this is my last year full-time as a teacher before I just go full dive into content creation. I actually was not full-time with Channel Awesome at that time. I just started to see a little bit of a solid baseline of income. And I'm very lucky in terms of my husband is also a freelance artist. So he had a lot of experience in running a freelance business, and we sat down for a whole weekend and figured out what a budget would look like. What would be my baseline expenses for running a business? What would be the minimum amount of income I would need to see from this business in order for it to be worth it for me to quit my full-time job and pursue this more seriously? So it was a whole weekend of sitting down, budgeting, being honest with myself and how much I would spend and how much I could potentially bring in every month. And savings are huge for that up and down. You have to be tucking away savings all the time, and sticking to that budget that you draft up. Yeah, sticking to that budget that you draft up is imperative. And obviously you can revisit that if more and more you find that budget is no longer suiting you and your needs and what you need to get out of content creation. But it was just having that weekend of sitting down, doing the calculations, and seriously considering what it would take.
That's right. Also, I think we got time for one more here, I think. And after that, we are going to go back to our table. We're probably going to start packing things up at our table after this. But if you want to come by, say hi, get something signed, we do still have our stuff out. So just come see us right after this. You know what I mean? Yeah, because we are going to head out after that. Go ahead.
Hey, guys.
Hey.
Nate Blair, lawyer in the gaming space. And question for you, sort of having to do maybe a little bit what you were just kind of talking about, sort of balancing content creation with sort of another job that might be totally in a different direction, like a professional job or something like that. And maybe inside your content creation, any thoughts on making entertaining content that is an educational purpose, right, or a professional education purpose, stuff like that? Where you're still trying to be entertaining, but at the same time informative.
Edutainment,
Thanks.
as I like to hear. No, and there are some channels doing very well. What's that?
I watch them a lot.
History Abridged is one, right?
I really like, because I do a lot of cooking. That Max Miller guy, Tasting History, like he does.
I love Tasting History.
Does a lot of great work. Like his stuff is good. Like there's a lot of stuff out of there like that, and like the older I get, I'm like, I'm just boring guy in his 40s. I'm just like, that's kind of a lot of the stuff I like watching on YouTube. It's like, let's learn some stuff, because I'm like, I'm watching garbage all day for this thing. I'm just like, maybe I'll learn something now.
But on top of that, there's like I used to do these, and sometimes I still do, like just editorial NC videos where I just talk about a subject, and I talked about Romeo and Juliet and sort of are they really in love? Because a lot of people it's not a good love story. That just means they instantly fall in love. And my argument was that might have been the idea, because they're kids and they're not allowed to really get to know each other and find out they're not in love, and then go find true love because the two warring sides are trying to keep them apart, so that draws them closer together. I said it might be intentional, and this teacher says he actually shows that to his class whenever he talks about Romeo and Juliet, and that's amazing to me. I wasn't doing that to have people show it in class, so even you can be older, you can be younger, both work, and I've seen like tons of videos that are educational but funny, interesting, well put together, that have millions of views, so it's definitely a thing, and I feel like it's only kind of growing.
I would say, like, and in this realm of like kind of half what we do, half not, I would say people like Defunct Land's a good one. There's a whole Disney industry, like Offhand Disney, all these people that, like, I would say, like, some are more educational than others, but you get a lot of history of, like, because I love like roller coasters and theme parks, so I watch a lot of that, and like a lot of stuff on like the histories of like certain roller coaster manufacturers and stuff. So we're really in an age where like YouTube is, I mean, obviously that's the same quality as Wikipedia, and then you'll have Encyclopedia to tell you that's Wikipedia's not the same quality as them, but it's definitely getting to a point where it's like you can get almost any subject you want on YouTube. Somebody's going to be talking about it, for good or bad.
Yeah. And that's part of it. Like, the internet is great because you can look up anything, but then it's also terrible because someone can pretend to be an expert on something and spout absolute garbage.
Town is another one I watch. He just has like a log cabin in Indiana where he just talks about how it's like to live in like the 18th century, and it's like, if you're into that nerdy history shit like I am, like there's a ton out there on YouTube for you.
And I think a component of that is, like Doug has said earlier, just being self-aware of what you're an expert at. Like, I think sometimes people, two sides of the coin is sometimes people think they're an expert at something, make some videos and realize they're not the expert at it, or they don't realize that they are as well versed as they are in something and go into like a situation with like the Green Brothers where like now Hank is just like science guy on TikTok, when like that's not how he started his career in YouTube at all. But you just got to understand what you are an expert at, and like if you want to play to that, cool. I find, and maybe this is just me, I find that I tend to want to consume more content in which the person doesn't claim to always be like, well, as the leading expert in this. Like there's
a lot of film essays like that. Yeah.
Right.
I watch a lot of film essays and some are very good, and then you can tell there's something like just very off-putting.
Yeah, there's like a balance between being relatable but also not, I don't even know how to put it, but
They give the impression that they're above you. I think people like listening to someone that they are knowledgeable, but they're not above you. They are with you.
It's the
we're trying to figure stuff out together.
And just because you're passionate about a subject doesn't mean you have to make a video on it. For a little while, I thought I'd make a YouTube channel called The Edgy Gamer, where I'd like bring together education and gaming, and like it is, isn't it? Thank you, Doug. I had the branding and everything.
That's amazing.
But like, I found that as much as I liked to talk about, like I used to use Minecraft in my classroom, you know, like as much as I'd like to talk about like, oh, here's some really cool ways that you as an English teacher can use Minecraft in your classroom. It was something that I wanted to keep, like, I needed to protect my peace about it. Like, I didn't want to necessarily, like, put everything out there when, like, I'd only been teaching for 6 or 7 years. Like, I don't know. I don't even know how to put it.
No, I get that. Like, you know, you need some things that are just your own, too. You know, that you're passionate about. And
that's okay. Not everything is content.
Yeah, exactly.
That was a journey for me.
Things
not everything is
happen
content.
organically, though, over time as well. So don't be afraid if you're just, like, noticing things like, oh, I'm getting kind of interested in this, or like, oh, people seem to respond in kind of this. Like, you can start leaning into things or just kind of going with the flow and seeing where things lead. Like, it doesn't have to be some sort of, this is my exact YouTube business plan, I'm going to do exactly these videos and this and that. Like, there's a lot of guess and check. Yeah, let's see what works. It's like, what am I interested in? And like, some people, like, I've picked up plenty of hobbies over the decades. Like, you know, where I was like, I'm really into this now, and I'm into it for a few years, and it kind of falls by the wayside. So just kind of go with the flow and kind of just see where it all leads you. Don't be afraid to, like, go down a different kind of avenue or channel.
But if you've been doing it a long time too, 17 some years, you can go back and look at older episodes and tell what era of YouTube it was. You'll look at some older videos and be like, okay, this was the much more like F-bomb heavy riffy era. This is the more political era. Now we're like this is the more analytical, more like kind of chill era, but still like jokes and stuff which actually is a bit more educational now than it used to be.
And again, like if you've got a specialty, it can translate between different venues. In my case, in my personal case, like I am a voice actor outside of like YouTube. So like I do a lot of commercial voice acting, but I'm able to take that expertise and apply it to like the commercial parodies that we do, you know, like random movie trailers or ads. And then it works with, you know, other collaborations like with like Lackadaisy or Chuck E. Chicken coming soon. But yeah, it's like taking a part of yourself and just being able to hone it, and then like you're able to collaborate and work with other people. It translates. Yeah.
So cool. Everybody, thank you so much. Again, hope you enjoyed this. Good night, Sheboygan. We love you.
And there you go. That's the end of this podcast episode. I'd like to thank Doug Walker, the Nostalgia Critic, and the Channel Awesome crew for being on the last panel of the 2024 Midwest Gaming Classic Convention. I greatly appreciate it. And you know what? They always bring in a lot of people. They have a large fan base, and it's taken quite a long time for them to get to where they are now. And remember, if you want to be a YouTuber, just dive in, do it, and don't worry about what other people say. Do it because you want to do it, and don't do it because it's a job. When it becomes a job, then it's something that you will not like doing. Do it because you want to do it, and talk and show things that interest you, not what's popular. Just do what you like, and people will find you. And if you don't become a popular YouTuber, then you don't. At least you tried. And it's not about becoming popular. It's just about expressing yourself your feelings and the things that you like and sharing them with other people on a very large platform. And that's it for season 2 of the Midwest Gaming Classic podcast. Episode 15 is the last one. And you know what? Until next time, thank you very much for watching and subscribing. I greatly appreciate it. And remember to like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps out the podcast very much. And that's it. That's all I have to say for this season. Thank you very much. Take care, stay safe, and game on.